far as eating pudding with your fingers, most of the time, I would agree that's uncouth. But also,
there's Matt Walsh talking about pudding and eating with one's fingers. I think you guys might have seen where this is going if you follow what's going on with Ron DeSantis and the awkwardness of his life. These reports keep trickling out, so of course, one Matt Walsh has to be ready to defend. So before he gets into the details of why it's sometimes okay, let's first get into what it is that had been going down. Because the Daily Beast reported, again, some of this awkward behaviors on the campaign trail for Ron DeSantis, which would allow him to distance himself from normal normies, as they might call them, so he won't be embarrassed. So here's those details. 3 former DeSantis staffers described him as simply quiet, no matter the occasion. Someone who keeps to himself. That's made the shift to the national scene harder than anticipated, is what one source then explained to the Daily Beast. Ron is a little reserved and dry compared to George W. Bush and Bill Clinton. I wonder why they chose those two. He is what he is. So what he needs to do is organize his campaign to minimize that characteristic. And during his Iowa swing, DeSantis' apparent use of bike racks, oddly, to create space between himself and the crowd didn't go unnoticed elsewhere, is what they wanted. If they want 50 bike racks, we'll give them 50 bike racks.
So
that's
weird.
What a New Hampshire Republican lawmaker talked about. Now more, because enshrined in DeSantis lore is an episode from 4 years ago. This is what everyone's talking about. During a plane trip from Tallahassee to Washington, D.C. in March of 19, DeSantis enjoyed a chocolate pudding dessert by eating it with 3 of his fingers. Man, people were watching closely. That's according to 2 people that were watching him stick his fingers in the pudding and didn't turn away. But still, with that whole thing happening, this is where people are now talking about how weird DeSantis is. And of course, many Republicans who've moved on from Trump to DeSantis because now they found a new person that isn't quite as embarrassing. They don't want embarrassing things coming out. So here's Mr. Walsh here trying to continue to explain why it's okay. I mean, it's not that crazy. Watch.
What else are you supposed to do if you don't have a spoon? And that's some of the detail. If you're gonna have this whole report about how he eats pudding, then I think we need more details about why was he eating the pudding with a finger? What was there a spoon or some other utensil available on the flight? And if there wasn't, then what else are you supposed to do? I ask you this, okay? You're in a situation where you have pudding, maybe someone hands you chocolate pudding. You ask for a spoon and they tell you we don't have a spoon. And you say, well, do you at least have a fork? I can maybe make that work. They say we don't have a fork. What are you gonna do in that situation? Are you gonna not eat the pudding? Are you gonna say to yourself, well, I have this delicious pudding here, I'm just not gonna eat it? I mean, give me a break. Let's be serious about this. And in a situation like that, you do what you have to do. You know what this tells me? This tells me that Ron DeSantis is a man who's not afraid to get his hands dirty, not afraid to do what needs to be done in the moment to get the job done. And that's what I like about him, is that he gets the job done, you work with what you have, and you make it happen. And that's what he did with this pudding. And so I see it as really a microcosm of what makes him an effective governor in the first place, I would argue.
There's thoughts about this from the level of the pudding discussion and also the seriousness just of the conversation in general, because I've got thoughts about that. But first, Ricky, you've been waiting, chomping.
I have not been waiting. I have not been waiting
about it since 10 this morning.
All right, look,
it's okay.
Look. What I love about this is hypothetically, okay? Hear me out, all right? Joey B, not my guy. All right, not my guy. If this report came out that Joe was talking about corn pop and eating paint chips as a kid, and the report came out that he was, fingering pudding and putting it in his mouth, all right?
Good grief.
I mean, do you think Matt Walsh of all people would really be like, tough guy, tough? Let me tell you something. Tough man right there. And that's why he's an effective president, because he gets the job done. Do you really think his first line of defense would be gets his hands dirty? No, but what I will say is, quiet, measured, bike racks, awkward. A few of the characteristics that undeniably defined that man right there on your screen. The moment that sold it for me was when he received the slightest bit of pushback in the debate with, was it Charlie Crist, right? Who he took on in Florida. And Charlie said something and DeSantis looked very uncomfortable. Like you saw him like tense up and squirmish a little bit. And that was the moment where I was like, oh God, this guy is a wuss. There is nothing to him other than culture wars and like misusing the word woke. Like he has nothing. And when this broke, that he sticks 3 fingers in pudding, I was like,
stop it.
Completely believable. 1000% believable. And also them saying in the Daily Beast article that he leaves like a mess when he's eating, double believable. Completely believable. The guy's nuts. If he can get away with what he did allegedly at Gitmo, he can get away with pudding.
Forgotten about that. You've got lots of thoughts here, Sharon.
It's just, okay. Once again, I'm not gonna have any problem with the intermittent fasting. And I've got about 4 hours to go, okay? This 3-finger pudding nonsense is perversion by DeSantis standards.
Oh, wow.
It's everything he wants out of the classroom. It's perversion, okay? Remember when Howard Dean lost everything because he did a high-pitched scream? He lost everything, okay? And people said how weird it was. He had to go away for a long time. Had this been butterscotch pudding, I would say DeSantis would be a wrap for him too. But this is too much for me, okay? And I like pudding as much as the next child does, okay? I had pudding pops, all that stuff. But to think about, I cannot get this out of my mind. Not one. It's not like you lick the bowls. 3 fingers. Whoever brought this to our attention, make it stop.
No, completely disagree.
Depending on the length.
If it was butterscotch, really? Oh my goodness.
Depending on the length of his fingernails, it could have some could have stayed underneath them as well. No matter how much he really tries to get it all. But by the way, Matt Walsh had his response to it, and he thought this was something that makes him look even more presidential. He wasn't the only one. Ben Shapiro is also carrying the pudding for him as well.
You have never eaten food with your fingers, of course, because you were brought up in the court of Queen Victoria. So you've never eaten food with your fingers. And if we're gonna go on like the scale of weirdness, obviously eating pudding with your fingers on a plane in the middle of a campaign, way weirder than actually believing that a man who cuts off is a woman. But on the scale of weirdness, the president of the United States sitting there and calling it sinful not to trans the children, way less weird. Now, here's the thing. The current president of the United States actually has pudding for brains. So it is significantly less important to me how people eat pudding than the fact that the current president of the United States actually has pudding between his ears.
So that's his defense as well. But by the way, this is one of those things. And as I see this is what I'm talking about, the seriousness of this back and forth. Because I don't think Ben Shapiro nor Matt Walsh really care. But they need to defend it because there are people who are like, this is a little odd. And honestly, in my opinion, if you have this weird, addiction to eating pudding with your fingers because there's no other utensils available, I'll go, ew. But it doesn't really factor into how much of a fascist you are. I feel like those things are much more important. This just kind of adds to how odd he may possibly be. But as they had a fun gaming night though between a few of these grifters, they did though discuss the reasons why no matter what, no matter how odd of a story it is, they have to be positive about Ron DeSantis. You'll see the revelations here.
I'm gonna be the next PewDiePie. I'm gonna make my millions on this game.
That'd be the first time you've been productive. So. If we could somehow monetize you as a video game player, I would make that deal.
Hey, hip guys. Hey, hit A.
Hey, watch them make a deontological reference about Mario Kart. That's a winner. I mean, honestly, it's not that hard a job, Michael. All you really have to do is what Matt and I do. You just say that a man is not a woman.
You just go to game.
Just keep saying it over and over.
And that's the game. We can grift all we want as long as we say the right trigger words. And they're all over Ron DeSantis. Now that former President Trump has now been ditched by general established community. Well, there you have it. I'm not sure if you guys really, if this works, especially when they say it out loud. We heard about how Fox News is lying behind the scenes, but they still follow them.
Look, the pudding, I need to raise the highest warning to everyone out there. If this guy runs, this is the tip of the iceberg, okay? If he runs in 2024, we are going to get a dossier. I'm telling you, this is the tip of the iceberg, this 3-finger pudding. And you heard it here first. Go ahead, you'll see. Dossier, okay? And here we go all over again.
The Cosby dossier, not the Steele.
Yo,
dossier.
I was literally thinking like, man, the attacks that Trump is gonna have on this dude. Oh my God, bro.
But should this be something, Rick? Should this be something that, say, people are generally disgusted by, that it should be one of those things that stays in people's minds when it comes to voting? Because there's always, and Sharon mentioned it before a minute ago, when you scream and you're Howard Dean and you're literal, have to be sent away in exile, political exile, because of right?
Yeah.
It was
Why
higher
is
than
this?
that.
Why are these deciding factors?
Yeah, it was way more annoying than that. Okay, that's a good question. What I will say is, Sharon's right about Howard Dean, but also I would say that it's not necessarily about policy anymore. It's about theater. Like this is all that it is. Like they're doing this. First off, like this whole Ben Shapiro thing of like, you could tell why he's a failed writer, because like the best he could come up with, he has pudding for brain. Like, but like how I'm looking at this is, it doesn't really matter that basically Florida is becoming like the fascist state in the union, and he's rolling back rights of everybody in the state. If this is what brings his downfall, I'm here for it, honestly. Like, my question is, does this become the Mehmet Oz crudité of Ron DeSantis? It's got potential, honestly. It really does. I don't know if it'll stick. It's up to the Republican voters.
It definitely sticks to his fingers. Maybe stick to his campaign. I literally can't get the picture out of my head.
Of him scooping it?
Yeah, come on. Someone took a picture. If they're willing to tell, everyone's got it.
Got to drop in October.
Hey guys.
Imagine how.
Hey guys, here in the TYT control room, we've been workshopping a new nickname for Ron DeSantis. We want to know what your thoughts are for Ron DeSnack Pack.
Too long.
Oh, come on.
Too long.
Maybe snack this, since
Ron
he's
DeSanctis?
DeSantis.
And also, like, nah, I'm gonna go with pass, because it also feels like a jab at the physical nature of who he is. So I'm gonna go with no, because I'm not really in that business. But I also think that we can come up with something like way more. Yeah, I'm not. Like, I also think
I didn't know
we can come up with something way more creative.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, Ron DeSatan is so overused, but the way Dr. Richie uses it, it's got another 10
Very
years.
powerful. Yeah.
Yes,
It's
very
quite
powerful. Yes.
Can
He
you do it?
trademarked it.
Can you do it the same way Dr. Richie does?
No, why?
You were really close to trying. I couldn't wait.
Me too.
Never
Right?
close. Never close. Never close. I mean, honestly, is this going to be the crudité of Ron?
It won't. It's gonna blow over. It's too early. Number one, he's not even declared. Number one, and number two,
I'll never declare it.
No, I mean he hasn't even declared for president yet. It'll blow. It'll be far enough away.
You sleeping on it.
I agree.
You really?
They are.
Yep.
Really?
You're sleeping on it. The Kappas can't even have a step show in Florida because of this guy, and you're okay with 3 fingers all over some chocolate pudding.
Not okay.
And I'm telling you, people, it's not going to work out. And if there is a picture that comes in October and Comey tweets it out, it's done. Okay, that's a wrap. All right.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.